Oh, so many notes. So many notes. Just a comical amount of notes. Hi guys, how you doing? It is Monday. It's the Monday Guitar Show. We're doing the thing we do on Mondays, which is hang out and chat about the guitar. Says so right here. So it must be true. Today's stream is on the subject of 80s trickery and all things 80s goodness. So I've got a fellow suitably sizable head guitar player lurking in the wings. We have none other than LickLibrary's finest, Sam Bell, joining us today to talk about all things 80s. We've got some courses that Sam's done that we're going to share with you on the subject of 80s guitar, on pinched harmonics as well, all that good stuff. I realised as I started embarking on that Shred Fest in the intro that I hadn't actually bothered myself to warm up because I've been too busy shooting the proverbial in the green room with Sam, just taking everyone to task, putting the world to rights, as guitar players tend to do when they come together. But that's okay, because, you know, by the end of the stream, we'll have some fiery shred going on, I am sure, and some other good stuff too. We've got some real great stuff for you, but if you are new here, let me take a second to tell you about what's going on. Hi, we do this every Monday. It happens at 8 PM UK time with or without eclipses. Depending upon where you happen to be in the world, you may be experiencing the solar eclipse right now. This seems like an appropriate time to bring the 80s metal. I'm sure there's a Malmsteen album with the same name in many of your record collections. But yeah, we do this every Monday. It is live on the LickLibrary and Guitar Interactive YouTube channels. That's more difficult to do than you might imagine. Getting that point just right, that is a real challenge. But we're live on both channels. Whatever channel you happen to be watching on, make sure you give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell icon so we can let you know when we go live with streams just like this. Now, before we get into the meat of today's session, let's say some hellos and see how folks are in, see who's in, how folks are getting on. We're going to begin with a question from our friend Sun Tanu Official. Says, can you please solve the mystery of Guthrie Govan? Who knows? We'll save that for the Q&A session. In case you guys are wondering, by the way, we are doing a Q&A session later on in today's stream. Once we've done some lesson stuff, some discussion on 80s guitar, we'll answer your questions further on. So maybe we can solve the mystery of Guthrie Govan. If anyone can, it's Sam, so we'll figure that out. Marcine is in the house, says, hello everyone, can't wait for today's lesson. Sacred Godslayer says, hi guys, can't wait. Hi Nick, hi Sam, and all this should be fun, says PJ. I agree, can confirm. Fog Cornish says, sorry I can't make it tonight, folks. Rehearsal with the band, but I'll catch up tomorrow. Great to finally meet Nick at last at the Northeast Guitar Show. He's a lovely fellow. Must have been a different Nick. Now, man, it's great to meet you. I hope you find that Orange Jackson soloist you were looking for. We had some much discussion about the specific shades of orange that Jackson are putting out, and it's appropriate for today's stream. We'll continue that talk on pentatonics that we had in another stream too, so we'll get back to that. Response Audio is in the house. We are going to have 100% total darkness from the eclipse during the stream. Well, it's kind of dark out here anyway, to be honest. Let me open the door and have a look. Yep, it's already gone dark here in the UK anyway, so you can call it eclipse, you can call it night, who knows. But where you guys are watching, you'll get some lovely eclipse, I am sure. Who else do we have in the house? Larry Warren is here. Larry, lovely to hear you. Boomster Black is in the house asking about home perm kits. Do you think I would do this to myself? I was born with this. I wanted straight hair. Like, genuinely, I wanted, like, poker straight 90s hair, but look what happened. It came out all wibbly wobbly. I was chatting to Marty Friedman about this the other day, actually. There's a name drop, Clang, and I was telling him how I spent most of my youth trying to emulate his haircut. I don't know how he felt about that. I once told Richie Kotzen that I copied his beard, and he was really weirded out for some reason, because he just shaved it off, and I was like, dude, where's your beard gone? I copied the beard. And he's like, go away, strange man. He was nice, really. But anyway, who else do we have? Helmut Strap is in the house. Who else do we have? Mark Crandall is here. Keith MOF is in the house. Block 18's tuning in. Crankatom says, hi Nick, hi Sam. Greece from Germany. I was thrilled to see what was going to be on tonight. You and I both, man. I'm hoping to pick some tips up. I'm a bit of an 80s head. I know Sam is too. So we got some good stuff for you. Steve McD is in the house. Cowcat is here. Who else do we have? Dead Deadman, Doogie, Van Dugerson, watching an unspectacular partial eclipse here in Arizona, USA. Timothy Appling, who I keep calling Timothy Appalling, best punk name, I'm telling you, says, "Hi Nick and fellow guitarists, I had to search to find today's lesson." Well, sorry to hear that, man. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button, and hopefully that'll allow us to notify you when we're about to go live. Also, if you're not already, you can consider signing up to the mailing list. Details to follow. Sarah Godslayer says, "Please start your bets about Mike's malfunctioning after the intro jam." We have had a couple of those lately, but I've learned my lesson. Eddie Russell is here. John Mack is here. Our friend Felipe is here. Mike Seedorf is in the house. John McGuigan is tuning in. John Cowell, who made some fantastic guitars that I played at the guitar show yesterday, is in the house. I'm going to have one of those guitars off you. It's going to be great. Riffmaster 34 is here, rather. Dan Tompkins is here. Says, "Hi Sam, saw the advert this time. Hoping I can play as well as you and Nick by the end of this lesson." You'll definitely be able to play as well as me, but maybe not Sam. I don't know, who knows. But listen, man, I'm sure you're a fine guitar player, and you'll definitely get something out of what we're doing today. Who else do we have? Let's quickly say some more hellos. Kim is in the house. Kim is not tuning in from somewhere sunny, because nowhere is sunny. The sun is being covered by the moon. Mark McNish is in the house. Great to see you. My friend Andy Keeley is in the house. Nothing beats 80s bands for sure. Julian Andrews is here, tuning from Chelmsford. Okay, the centre of the guitar universe, birthplace of the greatest living guitar player in my opinion. We're into that. Loads of other friends. I'm gonna go through these as many as I can. Who else? Oh, my friend Craig is in the house. Craig, where are you? I've lost you. How do everyone? Mania was good. Anyway, that's another story for another day. Ergo Hog, the last one here. Ergo Hog says, "Good evening to my two favourite teachers, Nick and Sam. Name order is interchangeable." Well, that's very sweet of you. I really appreciate that. Speaking of which, let's get into the meat of today's session. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce my dear friend, LickLibrary and Guitar Interactive collaborator, Sam Bell, by means of a video. So I want to show you this. This is one of the courses that you can get on the links down below. This is one of Sam's courses. This is the 80s Rock Primer. You can check that out down below. It is available as part of your LickLibrary membership. If you're not a LickLibrary member, you can check out a free trial at the link below. When we come back, Sam is going to be on with us talking about 80s guitar.
Hi, Sam Bell here for LickLibrary.com, and welcome to this fundamental 80s rock guitar course. In this course, we're going to be taking a look at 5 iconic 80s metal guitar parts, 80s hard rock guitar parts, and we're going to break them down not only so you can play them, but so you can also understand the techniques behind them, how to develop the techniques even outside the remits of the riffs that we're looking at. We're going to learn the theory behind them as well, so you learn a little bit about rhythmic theory, understanding 8th notes and 16th notes and triplets, and also understanding some basic scale language so that you can take what you learn in this course out into the world of other 80s rock guitar or even in other genres beyond. So grab your guitar and we'll dive in.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Bell. It's so cool that he doesn't need to do his own intros. We have intros pre-prepared. Sam, how you doing, man? It's great to have you on.
I'm good, man. It's an absolute pleasure to be here on the Monday guitar show with you, chatting 80s guitar and curly hair.
Yeah, man.
I don't know if that's needed. Is that needed?
I think it is I think it's like a badge of entry. I think if you don't have the curly hair, you're not allowed to play. I don't know.
You can get a wig.
You can get a wig.
Well, yeah.
Wigs are available, and there have been many. We won't turn this into a list of best 80s guitar wigs. There's a few of them. I once watched, I'm not going to name any names, but I once watched a very notable 80s shred monster turn around so fast that his wig didn't quite catch up. He turned and the wig didn't, but we won't name any names for that.
That showcases his natural speed and ability. Right.
Well, that's exactly what it is, man. It was super speed, so much so that the wig could not keep up. They haven't invented a wig that could handle his power. Anyway, so Sam, we're here talking about 80s guitar. Tell us a little bit, before we go any further, tell us a bit about your journey into learning to love the wonderful period of guitar that pardon me, a cough. That was the 1980s. I had both hands up here. I've got a cough button that I didn't hit. Yeah, tell us about how you got into 80s guitar.
I just think it's just naturally part of what I liked about guitar. I've been playing since I was like 5 or 6, so I was born in '88, so I missed the '80s really, but I had lots of records in the house when I was young, and that sound. There's a band called Marillion, and the singer Fish had a solo album called Shadow Play, and it was like prog rock, and my family would play it all the time, and it had all these beautiful kind of swelled like chorus chords, odd time riffs and cool solos, and along that side of that there's loads of Meatloaf and things going around, and all that stuff around the 80s was being played a lot. So I guess it's just nostalgic and it's there. And then later on, when I started to take guitar more seriously, when I started to wake up to the fact I could practice guitar, and I heard people like Yngwie and Satriani, just something about it has kind of really flipped my switch. And also, I think I played a lot of Nintendo games in the 90s, and a lot of that music is inspired by sort of 70s and 80s fusion rock and metal. So I don't know, the whole thing just feels right to me. And then from that pop, there's so much great 80s pop with some amazing session players doing great. If we're talking about guitar specifically here, but there's so many. I could talk for hours about it, but get specific. But I guess that's how I started getting into 80s, and it's just stuck.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I mean, you know, both of us are. I mean, I'm a little older than Sam is, but both of us are still technically too young to be 80s heads. Really, we weren't there the first time around. But it was such an enduring cultural influence. Was the speedy guitar thing, and the 80s guitar thing, and like you say, those games that we grew up playing that had all of that fantastic fusion vocabulary. I actually had I won't delve too far into this, but we had a discussion with this on a recent interview with Marty Friedman, which will be in an upcoming edition of Guitar Interactive magazine. You can check that out when it drops. You'll be the first to know. Don't forget, hit that bell icon. Hey, I've done this before. Yeah, it's we were talking about the origins of that vocabulary in Japanese music, and how Japanese pop music is still very harmonically dense and all that sort of stuff. He had some really interesting takes on it, but I'll leave it for you to hear it from the horse's mouth. But yeah, man, the Nintendo thing, and you know, I was a Sega kid, so for me it was Sonic the Hedgehog, which was all the shred all the time. Ended up later on in life, in my 20s, I ended up contributing some guitar to a couple of the Sonic games, which were pretty cool.
Oh wow!
And that was that. I mean, imagine. It's for me, I was like, that is the best, right? That's super fucking cool. Because, like, you know, it's like, well, what do you want? And they went, what do you think we want? We want, like, no. Okay. Yeah, cool, man. So, okay, before we get too deep into the 80s thing, then, I guess maybe we can start by defining what we mean by 80s playing. So, I've labeled this 80s tricks. We will talk about some trickery as we go forward, but I mean, I guess if you had to define some qualities that you know that maybe define an 80s player or an 80s guitar style, what are we talking about here?
I mean, we're talking about all the shred stuff a little bit, which I don't want to kind of pigeonhole the whole of the 80s into that, but of course with technology getting better, recording studios, you know, the 70s was experimenting, and in the 80s they started to really kind of define things a bit more, and you know, and then obviously now we can do everything on just a computer at home. But in terms of the gear, you know, the preamp gain was changing, compression was changing, chorusing, modulation effects was changing. So what was possible on the guitar became even more. You know, things that would be a struggle through a kind of cranked old plexi with just a master, no preamp, just a volume. You know, I think Eddie Van Halen kind of was the sorcerer of people really taking that further. So then he sort of, in my opinion, just to summarise it, which is not completely true, but like you're hearing like the blues influence mixed with a bit more technical playing, which some of it was inspired by, you know, classical and jazz in certain scenarios, and funk, and some of the different genres started to really melt together. And then you hear, I mean, one of my all-time favourite 80s guitarists is a session guy called Alan Murphy. He was a UK session player, and he played with Go West and Kate Bush and all that. But he was really inspired by Alan Holdsworth, and Holdsworth was doing these beautiful kind of, Sonic-esque chord voicings. But then Alan Murphy was putting that into pop songs, and I thought that was really cool. And you can hear, obviously, there's Mike Landau and Dan Huff and Steve Lukather, but that was also a big part of it for me as well. So I'm saying like big, produced, kind of lovely, clean chord textures, and then melodious solos. With it still had a lot of blues influence. I don't know what you feel, Nick.
No, totally agree. I mean, I think a lot of what we think of as 80s guitar is, when we think of the big shred thing, is actually 90s guitar, and it's the posting very. I say 90s. It's like it's post Surfing with the Alien kind of era. Steve Vai, Joe Satriani were in their pomp. The shrapnel shred thing was huge for the majority of the 80s. That wasn't really a thing. That happened kind of towards the end of the decade, but you still had guys who, we've got a great comment here from David Tompkins saying there was a gunslinger attitude, which totally 100%. So you had these guys. George Lynch has been mentioned a lot in the comments, who is a huge favorite of mine. I'm a big George Lynch fan, but you had all these guys who were the hot guitar player in a band, and it seemed like looking back, I wasn't there. I was there, but I was very small at the time. But looking back, it seemed like every pop song had a hot guitar solo or a hot sax solo. Every rock song definitely had a hot solo or two or three. And we also had this brewing of the 80s metal movement, which then became the Bay Area thrash, came out of new wave of British heavy metal, etc. So yeah, I mean, I guess it's a big, broad thing, which is why I wanted to pin you down for a definition, because it means a lot of things to lots of people. But yeah, I think we can totally agree on the massive produced guitar thing, the melodious solos with touches of flash. Let's say, everybody's trying to get their tricks in and trying to move the needle technically, but it wasn't all. We weren't quite at Jason Becker at this point. Do you know that?
No.
That came, but when I'm thinking about like kind of mid-80s stuff, not really there. Here's a great one from Jim Deacon, spelled differently. I was like, Jim Deacon? So Steve Stevens of Billy Idol said he lifted the riff from Holdsworth classic Fred for Flesh for Fantasy. Interesting. Okay. Fred for Flesh for Fantasy. I've got the wrong way around. It's too many fours. The classic Fred for Flesh for Fantasy. I'm going to check that out too. So on that subject, then, I guess let's start with maybe some of the beautiful chord stuff, and then we'll get into the crazier stuff as we go a bit further, and I'll throw some tricks in the ring too, because I have a story about tricks, and I'll tell you about that later. So maybe talk to us a bit about those really gorgeous. I always think of them as like Landau type chords, or like the Steve Lukather type chord voicings. Tell us a bit about the sound, and tell us a bit about the types of chords that we're looking at here.
Okay, let's look at the sound first briefly. I mean, there's of course a lot of arguments around whether or not guitar was DI, straight into the desk, compressed, that kind of vibe. I'm going for a very clean tone of compression, and using those out of phase pickup positions. It's a very basic sound, but something that really, in terms of chord voicings, in the 70s, you had more kind of maybe triad stuff like that, which then actually in 80s rock started to become triads over bass notes of distortion, and then clean guitar work had to be a bit more spacious on more pop based records, and so you don't necessarily hear many if there's a chord progression, let's say D minor, F, G, just diatonic. You might, I'm just going to try and. You might hear a part like that, which is orchestrated over the top, D minor. I'll talk about these types of voicings in a moment, but there's there's all these parts that they're almost like string sections parts, but on guitar. So they will fill in certain sections. A good example actually is Human Nature. I can't actually play it. I've forgotten how to play it. Human Nature, the part that Lucifer plays on that Michael Jackson song. Might be a bit later again. But that kind of part where the chords kind of ring out. I'll stop there before YouTube tells me off. But
cruelly cuts us off.
Yeah. But that's the idea. So those sort of more minimal parts and using interesting voicings and arpeggios within the chords. Of course, then I've forgotten to mention I've added a healthy amount of got a bit of ambience there, but then the delay, and then the chorus. And I saw something about Dan Huff using like a dimension chorus and a tri-chorus on the same guitar, and all stacking all these effects and stuff, and that's where you see all those rec mount things and everything. But
yeah, it was chorus upon chorus, and it's interesting as well because, like you say, this is all to do with the march of technology as much as anything else. These sounds were available to us as as guitar players, but also the sound of recorded music was changing so much, and it was becoming so much wetter. A lot of 70s music is very dry. And very, very direct. He's becoming much wetter and more expensive sounding. But I'm going to guess on that subject, talking about Dan Huff. There's been some mention of a really great video Vertex Effects have put out recently interviewing Dan Huff about his... who, let me find that. That's Jonathan McCullough has pulled that up. It's a great call there. And he was talking about... I think he was on Human Nature as well. And he was talking about this... This pattern that he's playing, that's this really lovely arpeggiated figure, and he said, "Oh yeah, well I heard that on the keyboard, and if I didn't jump on it, then I just wouldn't get to be on that section. I would be muted for that." So and then all that stuff carries over into the mainstream rock side of things with the big rock ballads, with all the bands we love, the Wingers and the Warrants and the Dockins and the Motley Crues and the Whitesnakes. A lot of stuff, but so talk us about the chorus that you've got going on there. So, because that seemed to be for me, when you hit the chorus, that was when it stopped being just some lovely chords and started being some lovely 80s chords.
Yeah, this is a dimension chorus thing. I don't know what I'm not super... I know analog chorus is a bit more warmer, and you'll hear analog chorusy sounds on more 70s stuff, and especially for the Under Pressure, for example, Queen and that kind of vibe, but so that's a bit more warbly, and I remember Guthrie saying something. He had an analog chorus, and it says it sounds like frying eggs. There's this kind of like sizzle to the chorus, but with 80s chorus, it becomes a bit more cleaner, a bit more trebly, and it definitely adds. I mean, if I play that tone, if I turn off trying to get like a vintagey tone, then. Okay, just doing that. Okay.
Yep. YouTube algorithm, we've got you. No, 100%, man. And it is that instant 80s sound is the digital chorus. And from speaking to folks who were around in the 80s, it was this attitude of digital good. Digital good, analog bad. Because all the new stuff that was in the racks was digital. You ended up, like you say, with these more hi-fi chorus sounds, less warble, more depth, less rate, let's say. So if you're dialing your chorus up, you would have that, maybe you'd have it with a very, very slow sweep, but quite a big one. A lot of pitch modulation. And of course that is exacerbated further with the whammy bar. And I noticed you were doing some lovely bar stuff there.
Yeah, I can't, and that is a big part of it too. It just accentuates that kind of vibrato effect, warbly effect, as you're saying, perfectly. What kind of choruses do you if you think about the 80s, was there any particular, because they were doing lots of stuff also with doubling guitar and having one few is that true?
Yeah, they would do this thing where it was like it wasn't, I'm not going to say it was like ubiquitous, but there was a thing where they would double the guitar and then pitch shifted up or down X number of cents either side. Apparently, not to just turn this into like a rumors of the 80s stream, but apparently there was a big deal with 1987's self-titled Whitesnake album where John Sykes had recorded all of his guitars through a harmonizer with the pitch up on one side and down on the other side. And apparently Coverdale came in after the guitars were laid down and couldn't pitch his vocals to it because the guitar was so detuned either way. He was just deeply disoriented by the whole deal. But yeah, man, like, so for me, 80s digital chorus, the dimension thing you're talking about, 100%. Don't use so much of it myself anymore, but here's a really great comment from Block 18 saying, don't discount the impact of Tom Scholz Rockman units. Yeah, the chorus was definitive, and also the Roland Jazz Chorus amp for those out of the metal scene. Now that is a really great shout because that was a stereo chorus in a combo, right? Super cool. Really, really freaking cool. So I wanted to pull you on the whammy bar thing because we'll talk about the chord voicings in a bit, but you have some delay on there as well. For those of you that don't have a chorus pedal, if you have a delay and you have some of these lovely chord voices, you can actually kind of create a chorus effect by playing some bar vibrato against the chorus. Now, I do not have a wiggly stick, but Sam does, and I'm going to ask him to demonstrate. So play some lovely chords with the bar and maybe without the chorus. Yeah, reverb and delay, and it'll put us in the ballpark. Lovely. Nice. Very cool. Now, again, I'm sure that opening chord is that the theme tune for that pedal show? I'm sure. Or is that Anderton's? I don't know. It's one of the big YouTube channels. That's their theme tune. Is that opening chord? Yeah. But it's cool. You know, they're all nice guys. I'm sure they won't mind us using it.
Well,
so
I don't know if it's from Is This Love?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or similar.
Where is my lovely big syrupy clean? There. See, I don't have the in between sounds.
That still sounds lush though.
Well, if I get my chorus on, if I can find it. Bear with me. There it is.
Yes.
But that is more of that 70s chorus where there's a bit more of a wibbly wobble going on in there. It's not really the 80s detune thing. Yeah.
I was just wondering, often Lee saying about the synth part on that Human Nature track, but a lot of the time as well, it's the clean guitar gets put into that same bracket of synthesizer in some of the genres. It becomes that's its role.
Sure.
Rather than like, this is the guitar riff, and often it would be contrasted with the riff. You know, the distortion pedal goes on, and then and then the riff thing happens. So it was defined as a different texture. Almost.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Most definitely. So, in terms of the chord voicings that we're playing there, let's talk about those because we did say we were going to touch on those. There's a lot of suspended chords and a lot of I'm hearing chords with the third omitted. You talk to us about that though because you're playing them. So, you tell me what's going on with those lovely chords you're playing.
Well, it's only as simple as if you know what type of chord you're playing in the chord progression. It does take if it's a major chord, C major. I mean, even with just the chorus on there, I'm already. I don't know, making up stuff there, but instantly, there we are. So making it sus. So a sus chord is where you take the third and you suspend it. You literally take it out. It's like it was swinging on the thirds in the middle, and you've held the ball at the top of its swing, and now it's a second, or you've caught it again and it's the fourth. So that's when you get the 2, 4. But the 2, I think, is the 1. That makes it more confusing when I say that. But I think that's the one that you hear. Sorry.
Yeah, it always sounds more stable to me. Does the 2, the sus2? Sus2 is generally, for our listeners, generally a perfectly viable substitution for any major or minor chord in outside of non-diatonic chord progressions. So if you're playing, you can sub most chords, whether they're major or they're minor, for a sus2. True with the big proggy riffs as well. If you're laying down the big slabs of Dream Theater, you can play sus2 power chords. But if you had that, if we take the Andalusian cadence, if we take the classic chord progression of C, D, E minor, the easy... Oh, that's a phaser. That's interesting. Where's my chorus? Cool. Phaser also cool. There's my chorus. If we take that C, D, E minor thing, we can just as easily substitute all of those as sus2 chords. Yeah. You've got to be a little more careful with the 4, because if you end up on the C chord, it can be a little weird. That chord wants to be Lydian, so we don't... We treat that a little more carefully, but the sus4 chord can also work really well. Similar if you want to include the 7th. So if you guys wanted to include a sus2 with the appropriate 7, would be really nice. So we could play, in this case, a major...
Slightly Holdsworth.
Yeah,
so
just a little bit.
The 7th in.
Yeah, you need some big hands for this. But those of you who are watching down here, that would be an example of our C. Probably not sure if I'd play it there. Here, absolutely beautiful chords. Really, really nice. So sus chords are your friend. Don't let Gen Z, with their co-opting of the word sus, put you off from the sus chords. So while we're on the subject of the bar thing, something else you mentioned was the melodic lead ideas. So I want to... here's one from my friend Nick Harrison. sus4, sus2 or add 9. We can do either. Either is cool. For anybody who doesn't know the distinction, by the way, in case you're wondering, I know for a fact that Nick does, obviously, but for anybody who's wondering what the difference between a sus2 and add 9 chord is, a sus2 doesn't have a third in it, but an add 9 does. So if, for example, I go back to my... I'm just going to solo myself here real quick. So if I go to this, I'll bring Sam in as well. Let's have a small Sam for the time being. If I had this power chord on C as my basis, and I included this D note, that would be the 2. If I also included the open E string to get a third, that would be an add 9. This wouldn't be. Both perfectly valid. And again, we can play minor add 9s to our heart's content, which is definitely 80s approved. We like a bit of that. So in case you're wondering, yes, any of those are appropriate. And a very good question. A very good question indeed. So,
may I add one point as well?
Go for it.
The key, I think, is the clash. That you want that there's between the 3rd and the 2nd in the add 9 chord, you get this rub, what they call it. And I've heard even Lukather use that word. And that add 9 is perfect. And if you're clever, for those who know a bit of the diatonic harmony, you can superimpose those chords over different bass notes, and you just keep the same voicing. Yeah, and then you can move it around. And so a lot of this stuff is, simple chord shapes really just being recycled in lots of cool ways. So I encourage anyone just to find a few patterns and experiment and throw in some different bass notes over them, and you got yourself an 80s anthem.
Magic. Very cool stuff. And of course, that is covered in the 80s Guitar Primer. You can go get that at the link down below, where Sam teaches you all of this stuff and more. Now, on to the lead thing, right? Because, everybody who's been here going, well, this is cool, but this is all very tasteful. I came for the tapping. Don't worry, we got you. So talk to us a little bit, before the amp screams at me, talk to us a little bit about this this idea we were talking about, where... the lead lines were melodic, with touches of flash, with the blues influence. Talk to us more about that, because I totally agree with you. I'm
going to use the Heart alone solo.
Oh, I'm not going to play it such a great solo.
But I'm going to use it as a teaching vehicle. So a lot of that solo lives. There's some blue. I'm going to do it in a different key, but it starts out with some blues vocabulary. And then later on, you've got that, it will be counterpointed with a... So then you've got that neoclassical Bach influence. And there's a lot of... even the players who were like, not shredders, were all kind of borrowing what people like Yngwie and Van Halen did. You can hear it in Michael Sembello, who plays the solo on Maniac. He's doing all the bent. So occasionally these kind of classical inspired ideas would come out. So you'd hear things like a blues phrase followed by something a bit more like a straight arpeggio being played through over the chord. So that would you get quite a loose feel contrasted with a very kind of almost classical feel. And even in like there'll be melodies where it might be just a simple scale ascending. You know, and that's not any kind of crazy vocabulary. It's just presented more like a violinist may present a phrase. And I'm not even talking about the shreddy, you know, that stuff, which is great, and a lot of people did that. But we're going to go on to the more pop rock side. And that's how I see it, like a contrast between blues roots and more classical influences. Being played with these techniques again. Eddie Van Halen, Eruption. Everyone's learning tapping. Everyone's learning how they're getting an idea that maybe there's something called sweep picking and things like that. And people are trying ththings in new ways, and you can. It's quite a creative time, actually. You know, in terms of trying these techniques out.
And speaking of, well, no, I totally wholeheartedly agree. And you know, it's tempting, like I said, to fixate on the shred aspect of it, where everything's, you know, the technique arms race, where all the big tapping is coming out and all that sort of thing, and that was definitely part of it. But I guess it was you had these wonderful session players who'd been first calls for a very long time, who are now getting asked to do, hey, can you do something a bit like Eddie Van Halen did on Beat It? Or can you do something like the Top Gun theme? So something I wanted to pull you on that real quick is to talk about the way that... David Beebe's in the house. Hey! Hello, mate. Hey, good to see you. Hello. We were just talking to me, and I'll tell you later. All good things. A lovely man. Too many bees, but a lovely man. Anyway, so you know what? Actually, very quickly, this is one for Beebs. So I once asked Guthrie on this deal. I once asked him to sign a guitar, which I still have. The signature is hidden behind a headstock tuner now, and I asked him to sign it and play 2 Gs for me, and he was like, "Why?" I'm like, "For Guthrie Govan." He's like, "Oh, G." And I'm like, the first one was G, and the second one was like, whatever that was. I'm like, jeez, man. So Beebs, that's for you. Like, start signing guitars. You can play B and then B, but make the first one really easy, and the second one like the Al Di Meola B6, which is my favorite chord. That's actually a legit. That was from the cover of Young Guitar or something, and it's this horrible B6 where it's 7. Let's get a clean sound. 7, 6, 4. 1 open. Gross. And of course Al would have us believe that he uses that all the time. Anyway, so that sort of arms race nonsense aside, something else that kind of sets 80s players apart from 70s players and earlier in my book is the way these kind of melodies were ornamented. So as much as the note choices, it was this business where it's like, oh, we'll throw pinched harmonics on this, we'll throw the bar vibrato, the wide finger vibrato. Talk to us a bit about some of that. And
yeah, well, I mean, ornamentations, if you just took a melody in B minor, you start to hear more like the legato. I don't know, or...
And that is,
guitar tune,
but that's instant 80s. Like it's so 80s it hurts. As soon as you start putting the bar scoops in, it's like, oh yeah, that's what that is. So for anybody who's unaware, tell us a little bit about what's going on there. I'll give you a hot second to retune your guitar. I do not have the wiggly stick, so I can't do this. But
it's not too bad. It's
still
jazz
right.
tuning.
Yeah.
So that was also down to the hammer-on technique. So there's a lot of legato going on. Okay, well, that's quite a cool tone. I have my tone all the way down. So
yeah,
the vibrato from the bar, you get you get the pitch below the note. If you're doing vibrato with your fretting hand only, you're going to be going. You know, if I'm playing B, obviously first thing is 80s vibrato, wide and fast. Generally, I don't know. There's no fixed rule, but the vibrato only goes up and down. With the bar, you're getting a bit of both. If I just exaggerate it, you know, it sounds a bit like clown-esque, but the idea is that scooping, like going below the note that you're hammering onto. You know, that kind of thing. And, Vito Bratta.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was doing like really melodic stuff with the tapping and the bending and the. It was like he never picked a note. He just hammered on everything, and he used the bar as a way of actually scooping into those notes. It was probably a bit easier to play those notes. Obviously, you have to mute better, but it sounded completely different. It sounded like Jan Hammer.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounded like. It was. I always kind of think about that sound a little like like you say, the pitch wheel on a synth. So there was obviously with those kind of synths coming into, first of all, being available, but also coming into fashion, you've got those kind of like wee kind of synth sounds. I spent forever messing around with that. I always call it the Jordan Rudess pitch bend, and it's if you're doing it like a tapping thing when you get to the top.
Oh, nice.
Because I don't have the wiggly lever, so I should have a guitar with a wiggle stick, but I ain't got one. And the one that I do have, the wiggle stick is no longer attached. But on that note, with the bar vibrato, it's a really cool sound because it does go both directions, like either side of the pitch, but it also has it almost sounds different to me than vibrato either side of the note, because we can do the either side vibrato thing with like a bend vibrato. You can take the Brian May kind of. But it never really sounds like bar vibrato. Bar vibrato has its own deal. To me, it sounds like classical vibrato, but quite wide. So if I was approximating that, for any of you who want that bar vibrato thing without the use of a bar, you can get it with.
How are you pressing down there?
With that, so I've got quite a tall fret wire, so I'm pressing down fairly heavy, but I'm pushing and pulling the string along its length for anybody who's watching. I'm not saying this because Sam doesn't know how to do this, obviously that's silly, but for anybody who's watching this who maybe... Oh, well, there you go.
I do a bit of that, but like that sounded like bar vibrato, and it was wide enough to be recognisable. I've tried it, and I've never been able to get it.
This was my effort to get bar vibrato without a bar. Oh, hello. The camera's gone off. That is very unusual. I don't know what's happened there. Let me... How very strange. Give me a second. Let's just turn you off and on again. Goodbye. Sony camera, stop doing that. That was really weird. Went to the settings menu for a second there. Oh, it's gone back to the settings menu. What are you doing? That is really peculiar. I may just need to appear on this one for a while, because I will just deal with the fact that it's a slightly weird shot. I don't know what's going on there. I'll fix that at a later time. What are you trying to tell me, Sony? It's
oh, no.
What's wrong? What's wrong, Skip? Anyway, so yeah, what I'm doing there with the classical vibrato thing is I'm trying to do essentially a classical vibrato, but just push really hard in both directions. So it takes a little bit of effort, a bit of muscle, but I'm trying to slow down the... For anybody who doesn't know, classical vibrato is where you take the string and you fret it, and then you push the string this way, and then pull it this way. I'm just trying to do that only further. So I'm holding on pretty hard with both fingers. It works really well with the pinky finger. And making a really concerted effort to pull the string really hard lengthways across the fretboard. I know Tom Quayle does this really well. He's magical at this sort of stuff. But the thing with it is it only works on certain fingers because you need lots of other fingers in there to help. You can't really do it in your index finger. So having a bar, much easier. That's a much simpler way to do things than this slightly ham-fisted approach that I'm taking. But any of you that don't have a bar, that's a fun way you can approach this. So talking about tricks with the bar then. So I noticed a big dive harmonic at the end there. Now that's something folks think about when they think about the 80s thing. So tell us about that. Nick, what gauge are your strings, says Julian Andrews. These are 10s. So I will tell you with regards to the 10s thing, right? I don't have a strong preference one way or another with string gauge. I play 10s because my job is to review guitars. And every guitar comes with 10s on it for some reason. They used to come with 9s on, and I'm big in favor of that. 9s are a great sounding gauge. They feel really nice. But I've got to be able to play on 10s because every guitar that comes into the office has 10s. And if I turn up and can't play on a set of 10s, I'm in trouble. Somebody else gets the gig. They'll just sack this guy, get Sam to do it. Anyway.
I do the same thing for the same reason.
Yeah, it's basically it, right?
But also I love 9s, but the thing is when I'm playing live or recording, I find it harder to control. It feels like I've got like wet noodles on the guitar. And actually things like legato, I can't get the pull-off sounding that good of 9s, but then I don't know.
It's
swings
funny.
and roundabouts.
I totally agree. It's a really strange one. I don't know if it's just 'cause I'm used to a bigger string gauge now, but I find the same with very coated strings. So very heavily coated strings, I can't get a pull off on them because I can't get the friction, and I have to start grabbing, which is quite annoying. And then you get the same feeling that you get from a very light string, where you're pulling and the string's moving. It's like it's hanging onto the finger for dear life, as opposed to being robust and not moving under the pressure of your mortal finger. But anyway, with the bar thing, so tell us a bit about the. I'm making you do this, and you're having to retune the whole time, bless you. But tell us about some of the harmonic tricks that we have going on there, because you had a really cool big squeal at the end of that previous demonstration.
I had to teach symmetry gates for LickLibrary a year ago, and it had some harmonics like behind the first, and it was just so difficult. I had to do thousands of takes. So there's one harmonic that I'm okay with sometimes on certain guitars, and it's that one at this fret. But you can probably do this in most places. And it's the diving of the bar, and then you kind of flip the string with your fretting hand, and then on the way back up. And you get all those little. Now, modern player Matthias Eklund, he does a bit of this like this slap with his finger. But I guess it's about finding those sweet spots, diving, and the trick with Dimebag. I know we're swinging forward in time here, but Dime was very inspired by Eddie Van Halen.
No doubt.
And they were a glam metal band before they were heavy, so that I can say this. But I haven't got a wah pedal set up, but using a wah pedal to get the attack of so it goes whip like that, rather than just.
That's clever.
And it hides that scoopy bit, and then the EQ then accentuates on the top end, and it becomes dive bomb from hell.
That is genius. How have I never come across that before? That is news to me, right? Okay, mind blown. If you take anything away from this stream, use a wah pedal for your dime squeals. Man alive, that's superb. I used to play. I have my RG. We were comparing RGs off camera. Marcy and I will bring it back to life one day. So I used to be into all this sort of deal. Start playing Les Pauls, and then trems were forever dead to me. But I still wanted to get those sort of sounds. So for anybody who's interested in getting this stuff, sans trem, Zach Wilde does a lot of really good stuff with this. But you can do some fun stuff behind the nut, for example, with the same technique. Now it doesn't sound as good as if you have a trem. But you can get that same clonk, that same kind of business. But that must sound, let me just try that with a wah, because that sounds really Oh, that's hard. too many things to coordinate, and my wire is somewhere over here, but that's a fantastic tip. I'm really into that. So, in terms of the harmonic thing, so you have a course on pinched harmonics, of course, which is now available on LickLibrary.com. Link down below. That became another thing that was big with all of our 80s guys, was the right-hand touch, that kind of honky-clonky thing, which did come from the 70s. But suddenly, you know, we weren't playing, if we take some simple melodies, we weren't playing them with a straight right-hand touch. There was a lot of that. There was harmonics on everything. Tell us a bit about, you know, about that and about the 80s right-hand touch, because you do this really, really well and it's super authentic. Like, what do you got going on with the touch when you're playing these 80s lines?
I don't know. I don't know. Something I mean, I know I. But I remember when I first heard someone do that. There's a video of, I had a friend at college that could do them, and it was like the holy grail to try and get that, just the pick hitting the string and then catching the thumb. But I didn't know anything about nodes. I didn't know also it probably helps to, when you're learning it, use a bit of gain. But really, you should be able to get pinch harmonics on acoustic guitar, because basically all you're doing is striking a harmonic. But I got really, I'm a big, anybody that's seen anything that I do probably knows I'm a big fan of Paul Gilbert, and like he would always pick anyway with quite an angle, and it naturally started to just chip out. So the angle and it's he taught a riff, I can't remember, but he was like, just trying to like put a pinch harmonic on every one, and it just started to happen a little bit. But I can hear that in lots of the 80s players. It's quite a satisfying thing to do, especially when you combine it with palm muting.
Yeah,
Contrast.
For sure. It's that very dark sounding kind of palm mute sound, and that big screaming harmonic, but there's all these lovely shades in between. And you mentioned Paul. For me, I would contest that one of the best notes ever recorded on the electric guitar is from the solo from Green Tinted 60s Mind. And there's this one bend to an E, which is just stellar. And the solo is it's the it's that one, and it's wherever it is, that's the one, and it's just perfection. It has this really incredible 80s thing that I would call it the old man hands, because all the guys who were older than me, who were playing in pubs around this way, they had that deal. They had that 80s touch, that wah, where it sounded like a wah, that was kind of stuck on, but it wasn't. And it for me, I really got into a deep dive on that for years, trying to be able to dial in just the right amount of vowel on the note. It's really hard to do, but it comes from being able to do the old pinch harmonics, because if you can't do a pinch, that sort of thing that we're talking about here is just the pinch, only less. You get just a tiniest little bit of pinch in there, and out comes something magic. George Lynch was unbelievable for this. He was, a player that I don't think doesn't get his due. I don't think, for being, being an innovator in terms of the sounds that he used. Sure, he also, and I will hear no argument on this. There's a hill I'm prepared to die on, and I know Sam's not going to argue with me about this either. But the thing we call the Greg Howe vibrato is the George Lynch vibrato. This. that is George Lynch. So much so that the Japanese invented a tab symbol for the George Lynch, and it was a vibrato sign, but it was a little sperm. And that was like, wow, okay, only in Japanese guitar magazines. So yeah,
You start using that. Guitar Pro needs to put that in the software right
I
now.
think so, right? Yeah, if you're listening, Guitar Pro, we need the George Lynch thing. But even in the riffs, going back to that we were talking about, these riffs, they sound more 80s when you have that sort of like honk thing going on. Again, if we go back to some George, so the riff from Lightning Strikes, which is just fabulous because it's so stretchy that he has to kneel down to play it live. It's this. If we play it without the partial thing, and then with that hank.
Well,
What a difference.
I wonder if that's also just a natural artifact to playing that kind of string skippy riff.
Maybe.
And hand angle, and it comes out that way as well. I mean, I'm sure it was also, this sounds cool, but some of that might also be to do with the style of riff that's been played and naturally how that, it would have been like, oh, that works, that sounds cool.
Quite possibly, man. Quite possibly. And you hear a lot in those kind of Randy Rhoads derived riffs. You know, we all think about, you know, the I shall play no more. But even on that, that is not the same without the pinches. I don't think so. You know, as far as 80s tricks go, it's as much a touch thing for me as anything else. And you've mentioned the vibrato already, which flows from the touch deal. So, you know, if your vibrato is on point and you have that lovely big wide 80s Ingve thing, or the George Lynch thing, he had a really great vibrato too, not to just make this a George Lynch love-in, but if you have that lovely big 80s thing and you get the partial harmonic on,
Yes.
it's just to die for, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's the sound of cool guitar playing. I've got a picture on my laptop of I got it in Australia, and it's a picture of a crocodile on a skateboard doing a five like in the air, and it says the word "snap" across the front, and that's the visual representation of that guitar playing. It's literally rad. Like it's Wayne's World. And I love that.
Magic.
Yeah, it just sounds cool. Bill and Ted, all those Bill and Ted record, you know, the Steve Vai, that's a masterclass in itself.
Man, 100%, totally agree. Guys, if you want some high quality tuition on how to do pinch harmonics, Sam has a course on the topic. We are going to show you this course when we come back, because I've monopolized an awful lot of Sam's time. We're going to take a very brief look at your questions. So, if you got questions about this, I would love it if you guys could drop them down in the comments. So, if you got questions, drop them down below. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime, let's take 30 seconds, talk about some pinched harmonics. When we come back, we'll be answering your questions.
Hi, Sam here for LickLibrary.com, and welcome to Pinch Harmonic Primer. In this series of lessons, I hope to introduce you to the basics of getting pinch harmonics into your playing in a kind of rock and metal context. However, this technique can be used in many different genres as a way of extending the fretboard, as we'll find out very shortly. So, grab your guitar, plug yourself in for this lesson, and we'll begin.
Yep, pinch harmonics, you know where to go get them. So, we got some questions. There's a load of really good ones coming in. I want to start with one that is not really 80s related, per se. So this is one from my friend PK, who is saying, I'm new to guitar, where do I start? I've got some thoughts on this, but I'd love to hear yours, Sam. What do you think?
God, well, I mean, that's the big question. But I guess it starts with what you're new to guitar for a reason. So, what is it that you want to play? and then from that extrapolate what style it is, and then maybe look at some songs in that genre which are easy to play. Now, LickLibrary has some good suggestions, but I would also mention just learning your basic open chords, get some strumming down. That's a good place to start. And if you don't want to, you can also do a lot of stuff with just the power chord that moves around. Some Ramones or some kind of classic rock stuff can be a nice place to start. AC/DC, no brainer, I'd say. That's you can cover all the ground in that. Solos, simple riffs, and chords. That's a place to start. That's without getting too complex. Go there. I don't know what you'd add to that, Nick.
I just totally agree. Totally echo that. I think from my perspective, if you're new to the guitar, you've probably picked it up because there's something you like about the guitar. I would begin by saying there is so much to learn on the guitar, and you will never learn all of it. I will never learn all of it. None of us will ever learn all of it. Recognize the fact that you don't need to know all of it, and you definitely don't need to know all of it now. And start with the noises on the guitar that excite you. So if what you're into is, let's say you've picked up the guitar because you're into 2000s metalcore, don't be afraid to don't feel like you have to go down the Burt Whedon Play in a Day book and learn Froggy Came A-Courting just because it's something that's typically a beginner thing. There are songs and there are pieces of music and sounds that you can make on the guitar that are the sort of things that you like and excite you that will be within your reach. Yeah, I would say that. Start with the stuff that you're really interested in. Try and pick some songs. Totally agree with Sam here. Like, pick some songs so you can make some music as soon as possible. There's nothing better than the first time you play something and you put the record on, you put the original recording on, you play along and you go, oh yeah, I'm in the band. And even if it sucks, it doesn't matter. It's fine. All of your favorite guitar players sucked at one point. Many of my favorite guitar players still suck, and it doesn't stop me from loving them. I suck frequently, and there's my camera has decided to abandon me again. It's like, yeah, you suck so bad, I'm going to switch off. Let's see what's got done. What is wrong with you? Come on, Sony, stop doing that. Terrible. I think it wants me to do a software update. But yeah, that's where I would go, man. Start with the stuff that excites you, and find some of that. Here's a one from Booms to Black. That's the best part. Totally agree. Anyway, another question. So here's another one from our friend Marcin. Says, Sam, favorite 80s chord progressions?
Sure, if I'm just going to go very, we're limited on time, so I'm going to go for the classic.
Oh yeah.
It was always that 4, 5, 6, whatever you want to call it, movement. I've always liked that, and of course, the simplification of that. If you listen to most like synthwave and modern versions of 80s music, it's always. So like I don't know why I'm playing in a kind of bossa style. I don't know what's going on there, Nick. But
I'm here for it.
Yeah, but that kind of just E minor to C. That's always fun, and then interesting modulations based around those simple chord progressions. So maybe it will switch key and it will go somewhere else, but it's the same thing.
Yeah,
there's
100%.
so many.
I mean, that's it. It's just that is such an it's such an iconic sound of the era. Is that Aeolian cadence? That stop it, camera. C to E minor. This is going to keep happening, so I'm just going to roll with it. That E minor to C thing, 100%. I totally agree. Just on my own, I have always loved that thing where you have that E minor to C, and then we get the A over C sharp guy, the Megadeth chord progression, which it's not exclusively Megadeth, but it is that.
Yeah.
But it's in full effect. There's a great Dokken track called "It's Not Love," which is in A. It has this. And it's that movement there. And second time around, the bass catches it. And then we've got the, let me see if I remember this. Just superb. Like that for me, that was one of those chords that when I was a kid and didn't have the first idea what was going on with that sort of stuff, I was like, what is that chord? That's so freaking cool because it sounds so tense, and I didn't know why, and came to absolutely adore it. So yeah, that's my contribution on top of Sam already had the best chord progression, so I felt like I had to do the next best chord progression. So here's one from Larry Warren. Larry Warren is saying motorcycle bombs.
Let's see.
How do we sound like a motorbike?
I think that's the basics of it. I was on my neck pickup for some reason. Because there's that bit in the middle of Bat Out of Hell. In the middle, and it's down in the pit of the, there's a bit, and it goes into the fast outro, and there's a big build up, and that's a guitar, and all it is just. There we are. I don't know if that sounded right.
Dive the bar, bring it up, and make it sound like a motorbike. It sounds pretty right to me. And depending upon what you, this camera is having my life here. What you it's like a little disco in my little studio. Yeah, depending upon what you have going on. In terms of the notes on top, whether it's a harmonic or whether you've just got the open string ringing, it can sound like an elephant. It can sound like a cat. It can sound like all manner of wonderful things. The lizard down the throat, the Joe Satriani one, which is very bizarre. But yeah, here's an interesting one from Black Crow Busker. It says, what is the hardest solo that you can play? I don't know that I can play the hardest solo that I can play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think I'll be the same.
Yeah, I think I've learned something. I've learned things that are pretty hard, and I don't know if I can play them right now. The intro to Colorado Bulldog takes some doing. Like, if you guys don't know what that is worth a look. It was bandied around at my college under the name of the Colorado Bulldog Death Lick.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
But
and
faster.
it's just stupid. It's like what even is that? That is it's bonkers. So probably that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you, Sam? What's the hardest solo you can play? I'm not going to make you play it.
I can't. This is the weird thing. I teach so much stuff for LickLibrary, and people say, that one you played this time, and I'm like, it's gone. It's gone. But I had to teach Big Trouble.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's a
tapping
challenge.
Section. I just remember practicing that for about a month before doing the performance of that track. People can watch that on LickLibrary. But
and they should. It's great. I've seen it.
I practiced it so much that it took a few takes on the day, but it was all I was playing for the whole build up, and it was like there's moments when I was practicing that where it just felt like you're doing bar by bar, and it just felt like this is never going to make sense ever. Like,
yeah.
Somehow when you trust yourself and you just sort of let yourself go to the practice, eventually these things happen. But I think us musicians are like sports people in some ways. We have different seasons. We have the set and the music we know, and then we do something else and we forget those other things, and then I'm sure if we spent time practicing Colorado Bulldog and Big Trouble, eventually we would have it under our fingers. But
yeah,
that's a big question as well, because there's some simple solos which are very difficult to play as well.
Yeah, man. I think there's a lot of stuff as well where there's maybe a solo where it's hard not because it's athletic, but it's hard because there's so much expectation on it. If you stood me up in front of a room full of guitar players and said, play, I've got Paul Gilbert stuck in my brain now, but if you said play Daddy Brother Love Little Boy, I'd have a good crack at it. But if you said play me the solo from Comfortably Numb in front of a room full of guitar players, I'd be bricking it, because that's one of them solos where you go, bloody hell, if I get that wrong. first of all, it's not a technically demanding solo, so if I get that wrong, I'll look stupid. But if I don't play it really, really super authentically and full of the magic, then all the guitar players will hate me and they'll be like, "You're a bad person because you didn't play the solo as it stands." But a good question, a very good question. So definitely worth a look. Now here's another interesting one that we've got coming in. This is the very first comment that came in, and we're going to see if we can crack this one, and we'll be as facetious as we like about this because I don't think anybody can really. Can you please solve the mystery of Guthrie Coven? We know what you mean by this, but I'm just tickled by the idea of there being a mystery of Guthrie Coven, like, like maybe I don't know. Like a Carmen Sandiego kind of thing, or what's the word? Like an Agatha Christie, the mystery of Guthrie Coven. Shreds too hard and then disappears in a puff of smoke and is never seen again. But can we solve the mystery of Guthrie Coven song? Sam, where the song came from? I was looking at my camera.
I'm happy with that. It's all good.
Yeah.
I think he's an enigma, but I think most players who are anything that stand out. They are completely themselves in a way that's unimitatable, and I think that's the beauty. He clearly listens carefully, and I think there's a level of technique which is embodied. It's no different than speech for him, and he's just interested in everything, but not in a way. I don't think he's. The problem is when Guthrie came about, everyone tried to be like Guthrie, and tried to do it in a way of like, well, he has X, Y, and Z, these influences. So if I get these influences, I'll be like Guthrie, forgetting that they are like themselves, listening to those genres, and then they start listening to these genres that they don't like because they think it's going to make them like Guthrie, and then you end up with lots of players that sound like Poundland Guthries, myself included.
Yeah, me too.
I
never even got that far, but I had a go.
No, but we've all tried to kind of get all those little moments and but he's doing that from a space of complete. He's like a tree growing its roots. That's what his playing sounds like to me. It's completely real. There's nothing co-opted about it, and it's and I think the only way we can get close ourselves is by honouring our own path.
Nail on head. This is the holistic view of the Guthrie problem, isn't it? It's what Guthrie is the product of somebody following the sounds they love with the level of obsession and that there's a degree of, if you can call it talent, who knows? Who even knows what that means? But there's that. But you can't be the king of Guthrie's Mountain because you don't love the things Guthrie loves as much as he loves them. You love the things you love, which are different. I had this, funnily enough, discussion with somebody about improvisation and learning. I have this big deal about learning and playing improvised solos. I feel like if a solo is improvised, I feel like the least authentic thing you can do is play it note for note. I think that's the furthest from authenticity you can ever find yourself, because you've done the opposite musically. You might have reproduced it with wave perfect precision, but you've missed the spirit of the thing. And I think that's the deal with Guthrie, is it's the spirit of what he's doing rather than any one thing. And he's got an enormous hand and can't ride a bike, so there's that.
There is that.
So don't ride bikes and have huge hands. That's the answer to the Guthrie question, I guess. And have a beard. We both have beards.
Curly hair.
Curly hair. Just saying.
Just bring us full circle there. I don't know.
We're back to the perms. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out and talking about guitar with you today. Sam, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. This has been a real highlight for me. I love the 80s stuff. We know you guys too. Don't forget, by the way, if you are new to what we're doing here, we do this every Monday. Well, I do this every Monday, 8 p.m. UK time. If I could have Sam every Monday, I would, but Sam's a busy boy. But he does regular live streams for LickLibrary. If you're not subscribed to LickLibrary, Make sure you are on our YouTube channel. Also, if you're watching the Guitar Interactive YouTube channel, give us a subscribe there too. We'll let you know when we're about to go live. We do this every Monday. Sam does these super regularly. You can go and check out Sam's courses, the 80s Guitar Primer and the Pinched Harmonic Primer, for all of your 80s goodness at the links down below. Thank you so much, Sam. It's been a pleasure. I will catch up with you once we finish rolling the cameras, but for the time being, I'm going to play out on the Top Gun ballad. I offered Sam the seat, but I've got the backing tracks and he hasn't. So that's fine. So you can check out some of Sam's streams to see how it's really done. But thank you very much, man. I appreciate you being here. Stick around. Don't go away just yet. And I will see you guys next week on the Monday. Let's see if the camera's going to play ball. We'll figure that out. Okay. Hi, my name is Nick Jennison, and it's my pleasure to announce that GI Plus, the exclusive lessons from Guitar Interactive magazine, are now included with your LickLibrary membership. GI Plus features a whole host of the best players and educators in the world, bringing you exclusive lessons on everything from metal to blues to fusion and everything in between. Want to level up your shred chops? Check out How to Play Fast by Andy James. Or how about Sweep Picking with Rick Graham? Or maybe country's more your bag? Well, how about a full-length country guitar course from Andy Wood? Interested in learning how to play over changes? Well, members get access to hours of exclusive lessons from Fusion Maestro Tom Quayle. Or maybe you want your playing to sound more soulful. Well, who better than Chris Buck to show you how it's done? Members also get access to every lesson ever published in Guitar Interactive magazine, including Michael Caswell's legendary Pro Concepts column. Or maybe you want to learn the secrets of the masters. Well, members get access to over 70 full-length tech sessions where our tutors painstakingly decode the styles of players like David Gilmour, Eddie Van Halen, John Petrucci, Larry Carlton, Slash, Tosin Abasi, Paul Gilbert, and many more. And you get all of this in addition to all of the amazing content on LickLibrary.com, which includes note-for-note tuition of over 60 classic albums, weekly lesson uploads, a backing track library, and one-to-one player support. There has never been a better time to sign up than right now.